Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today we are going to spray on a sock blank with food coloring. And in fact, we have already mixed some food coloring. We've got a pink here in our Misto pressurized sprayer, and a tiny bit of color left in here in this little pen. We've also got some color mist sprays around. These are all dyes that I used in another video. But in this video, I want to add something a little separate that maybe you can barely see on your screen. Right here, I have this fun DNA stencil that a viewer made for me some years ago. And I did actually use this in a live stream with spray painting blanks. But I thought it would be fun to just incorporate it in today and see how well this worked. This is not a sticky stencil in any kind of way. It is just a piece of, I think, transparency film that we will be using. I wanted to pop in to give a huge shout out and thank you to our lab partner, Belle. Belle, thank you so much for supporting this video, and I really hope that you will love the blank that we create today. The sock blank that I'm going to use today is a Knit Pick Stroll double-stranded sock blank. This is a piece of knit fabric that is used for dyeing yarn that you can then go and unravel. It is double-stranded, so when we frog this and rip it apart, the two 50-gram balls you get out of this will be matched, which is incredible because we can do whatever random pattern we want, and then you can have a matched pair of socks in the end or create some kind of symmetric project. Stroll is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And if you would like to learn more about these blanks or any of these other like spray tools that I'm using today, I will have affiliate links down in the video description. And I will also link to the video where I initially mixed the colors for those dyes. I probably will mix more of this as it goes on, but it was just one drop of the Wilton Colorite Base Crimson in whatever volume of water fits in here. In order to dye yarn with food coloring, you need to make sure you pick the right type of yarn. This technique will work on protein-based yarn. Wool is one of the best fibers to pick, but it will also work on alpaca, silk, angora, other animal fibers, and even nylon. Unfortunately, you cannot dye cotton, linen, other cellulose fibers, or synthetics like acrylic and polyester with food coloring. I mean, you can, but the color will mostly come out. So, for best results, go for wool or similar protein-based fibers. You will also need acid and heat and the artificial food coloring. Since none of our bottles have acid in them already, we are going to pre-soak our blank in some tap water that I added 3 to 5 tablespoons of white vinegar to. The total amount isn't super important, but we want this to soak well, it depends. If you want to be able to have color penetrate and move through and get more evenness, then you probably want to let it soak for 30 minutes or so. But I'm only going to let it soak for a tiny bit of time because I don't care about the evenness of color. I just want to have fun with our stencil. I gently squeezed out as much liquid as I could with my hand. And that's because I don't want things to spread and wick that far if we can help it. Okay. I did protect the work surface with some plastic wrap. You don't always need something like that, but today, since we're creating a pattern on here, I want to be able to wrap this up to steam set it once we've got the color laid down. All right, I'm going to take my stencil and place it down like so. And let's take one of these sprays and I'm going to hold it down and spray. Now I'm going to take my Misto, and it's already fairly pressurized, and so once again coming and holding down the stencil, I'm going to spray over it. Ooh, we got some fun resist from my hand as well. And now coming in, and this time I'm going to carefully, that's close to the edge, so maybe I will want to hold that, but let's go over here. Whoop. And that is our color mist spray so far. So now let's lift up the stencil and see what we can see. Ta-da! How cool is that? Okay, I did definitely just drip liquid on, so I'm gonna go rinse this off in the sink. But isn't this fun? Okay, I'm now going to place this back down in approximately the correct place. So that way we can now try our big spray bottle right here. I'm gonna hold it down and there we go, spray on. There might be some blow into some of those other areas, but this is so cool. Then coming down more, I think I've got a little bit more in the spray pen. And I've used this exact stencil before, which there's not very much color left in here, which is why it's going not super great. But where is our Misto? Actually, I am going to lift and then go and wash this again. Ta-da! Uh-oh, dripping. I don't know if you all remember when I tried to do this with string, and it didn't really work because the string just sprayed around everywhere, and that was a bit of a bummer. But this is working really well, even if I'm not holding it down, just because I'm able to have, I'm soaking up that liquid, some amount of control here. Okay, I made more of this red color to come in. But yeah, when I last, as I wait for this to come out, when I last tried this, it was string, which wasn't a stencil, but it did not work super well because the string sort of blowed around, or not sort of, the string absolutely did blow around. And that isn't happening here. A lot of liquid is coming out from some of these sprays. And so that is the one concern, but so maybe just the best thing to do is to blot it before trying to move it. And let's come over here. Oops, and press down a little bit. Then once again, blot our stencil. But hey, that worked really well. And the blotting, I think, maybe helps. Let's try it over here. And we can even maybe layer some of these colors. And then let's come in. If I can blot the stencil and I don't have to wash it in between each color, then that is incredible. And this suddenly is a lot more useful. And I'm not even really keeping track of the different colors. Oh, that's more orange. I'm not keeping track of the different colors that I am doing in here. I am merely just sort of going with my feeling and the gut, but so far all of these spray containers have worked very similarly. There is a lot of waste though, but let's do something fun in here. Let's do some orange first, and then let's come in with some pink and some red, and then let's blot and see how this one goes. Woohoo! I like the other ones better with the white contrast, but that still works. And there is just loads of potential in here. I am so excited. And this time I'm going over in all pink. I may have flipped it over. And then adding some orange to it. I am having so much fun. I have a bunch of stencils and this is working even better than the way I remembered. So I think I'm actually going to call it for the stencil, but I do want to come in and add more color in some of these white areas just for fun. And it's a little random, but that is also really, really fun about this whole setup and technique. It's that we can make our blank as wild or as regular as we want, and we're still gonna have matching, I'm losing pressure finally, and we're still gonna be able to have matched 50-gram balls of yarn in the end. But this is so fun. We will probably end up with some amount of speckling in here because of the fact that some of these colors aren't going to give really deep color penetration. But all things considered, this was not very messy, and I love this DNA mess that we're creating. Add some more layer of color into there. All right, now we need to steam set this. So what we're gonna do is come in here and fold up this and fold over. The edge is always the place where I want to be careful as I start to roll it up. But see how the backside is not as pigmented as the front, and we can even see the DNA a little bit on the back. That is a result of the spraying and getting a shallow layer of color. But we'll see how well we can still see all this patterning once the yarn has cooled off. And popping a blank from earlier today, let's go microwave this on high in the microwave using 2-minute increments for a total of 4 minutes. What are the advantages of spray painting the color onto the blank over the stencil versus using, say, a foam brush and dabbing it on? The difference is the way that the colors will spread beneath the stencil. If you add a very shallow amount of liquid, like we just did with these sprays, the color can't spread very far. But if we were coming in with a brush and as you sort of press the color on, the color will spread out and probably spread a little bit under the stencil, losing some definition. And I do have some other standalone videos where we look at stenciling with guar gum onto a blank and how using the guar gum versus not using the guar gum will give a really big difference in the definition that you can see on the blank itself. And so this is something worth playing around with. But spraying, especially if you want just a shallow layer of color, it's a really, really great way to play around with it. And we were just playing with like pink, orange, and like crimson. So you could do this with colors with more contrast and have a lot of fun. I just took the yarn out of the microwave and we need it to cool completely to room temperature before we can open it up. And this slow cooling will also help those colors absorb, and it's really great. But this is the last video I'm planning on dyeing today as part of this, I mean, it's unofficial, but I guess mini spray mini series that I have going on. I have no idea if these videos will come out back to back or what, but I think that it will be fun. But anyway, we have a lot of leftover dye, so I am going to rinse out all these spray bottles and combine all of the leftover color, which I am getting in my hand. The leftover color is mostly orange, but there is also some pink and a tiny bit of some crimson. So I am going to rinse out all these containers into here, and then we will dye one skein of yarn. Here is the leftover color. I just turned on the heat. And let's add a nice healthy splash of white vinegar. And now I'm going to come with it didn't pre-soak for very long. It's the same pre-soak water that I used before. So it has some acid in here. And we're going to start dipping. And ooh, that is a pretty orange. That is really pretty. I have no idea how quickly the colors will strike because the dye mat is still pretty cool. So we're just slowly going to hang out and dip and dip and dip. We could conceivably see some breaking because we've got some red 3, a hint of red 40, but the yellow 6, I think, is it yellow 6 and orange? I'd have to double check. The yellow is going to be so pigmented compared to everything else, or by yellow, the orange, that we might not see a huge difference in here. But I am seeing a lot of the color absorb already. Like as I go in deeper and deeper, we're seeing less and less color, which is always fun. There's still some color in here, but now I'm coming in and trying to move that small tip. I don't mind if there's some white left behind, but if I just put it in without moving it around at all, then we would absolutely see some white. And I can even come in with these tongs and move that in there. So this is a nice, very subtle colorway. But now I will heat this for, once we start getting a little bubbles, I'll heat it for about 15 minutes, then let it cool and we can wash it. It's time to unwrap our stenciled blank, but I'm also going to tap our Leave No Dye Behind skein in here just to show no bleeding. Wahoo! Alright, let's unwrap this, and ooh, this is so fun! I enjoyed the other blank I dyed today that was just the spray paint to test out these bottles, but I mean, I'm ChemKnits. I love DNA, and this looks amazing. So again, we got good stenciling here because of the low volume of water that came from our different colors. And so imagine dyeing a backdrop even with these colors and then using in the spray like a different like acid dye or something black, and so then maybe you could have the DNA pop as the bright colors with black over it. That would just be so fun. And maybe now that I have a Cricut, I can make my own stencils, but we will have to see. So anyway, I probably won't wash these completely together, but again, no bleeding. And I'm going to add some dish soap. Once I've rinsed out all of the soap, I will put this all through my spin dryer and hang it up to dry. But no color bleeding. Woohoo! I cannot wait to see this one dry. This blank is incredible. I am so pleased with the color coverage and the way that this stencil worked to create this really fun pattern on the blank. If we flip it over, you can see you can actually still see the DNA pattern a bit, which is cool. But you can also see there is a pigmentation difference between the wrong side and the right side, which will result in some speckling of these sunset colors on the yarn. Another way you can tell about that speckling is if you pull apart that fabric, you see white in between, and that is because the sprays give a really shallow color penetration, and so there's a resist there that will give a mottled and like large speckled effect on the yarn. One of the fun things with double-stranded sock blanks is that you can knit 2 at a time socks from it directly. You don't have to unravel it before you use it. And given however random we were in the pattern, this randomness will translate into where the yarn shows up on both 50 grams balls of yarn. So we could have created a gradient across the whole thing, or as we did here, just have been completely random. And you'll still have 2 matched socks, or you can make a symmetrical type project, which is really, really fun. These sprays are so fun, and you could use so many different types of stencils. The colors, when they landed on the yarn, because there wasn't a lot of liquid in there, they still remained pretty sharp overall. And I love that it still worked out to have like one color on here already and then have that show through for stenciling after. This is something that you could play with. And I have played with in the past using paintbrushes and guar gum or not guar gum, but you can do this with sprays as well. It all depends on how much you want the colors to penetrate. And I mean, I think it is so, so fun. Originally, I thought I was gonna unravel this blank, and I cannot bring myself to do it. But I do have a non-stenciled blank that I created with these exact same colors that I'm about to go unravel off camera. And I will insert a picture of what that yarn looks like, so that way you can get a sense of the type of speckling we will see here. It won't give like a gradient of colors exactly. There are areas with more orange and areas with more pink, but overall, this has a lot more random color coverage, and I think that the DNA on here is so fun that I want to add it to my shop intact. Finally, we had some leftover dye from these projects, and I sort of combined all the dye left in our spray bottles, and we dip dyed a skein also of stroll yarn in there. And this orange is so pretty. There's definitely darker to light in a very, very subtle way. But what is super fun about this is this skein would pair really, really well with, I mean, any of the other skeins we have done with these spray bottles in this mini, I guess it's kind of a mini spray series. And I am really, really happy with the results of spray painting on this blank. And I would love to make some more stencils of my own and play with other stencils that I already have more with these sprays and see what we can create. Belle, thank you so, so much for being today's lab partner. Thank you so much for supporting the content, and I really, really hope that you enjoy this lovely, lovely DNA blank. I had so, so much fun dyeing it. If you at home would love to learn how, as a viewer, how you can become a lab partner and get 100 grams of yarn dyed in a video and some shout outs in the video, you can find out more down in the video description. There's a few different options for how you can become a lab partner, either before or after I film the episode of Dyepot Weekly, but they all come with a lot of really fun perks and shout outs and beautiful ChemKnits dyed yarn. So if you'd like to learn more, you can find links down in the video description. Belle, thank you so much again. Which one of these spray painting projects is your favorite? I think mine is probably a toss-up between creating more gradients of speckles, like in the blank that I unraveled, and then doing stenciling like we did right here. Please comment below to let me know which spraying technique you would most like to try. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and turn on notifications by toggling that little bell icon so that way YouTube can let you know when I release a new video. I always create new videos on Tuesday and Friday mornings, and there's bonus videos and series along the way, and you really don't want to miss any of it. I do want to try these different spray techniques with commercial dyes at some point in the future. I just want to make sure that I'm completely ready for these to become dedicated dye equipment versus equipment that is still food safe. Once I use them with commercial dyes, even if I add food coloring to them at some point in the future, I will still want to make sure I'm using dedicated dye equipment and not use dishes that I might otherwise use for the preparation of food. So once something is used with commercial dyes, it never goes back and never gets mixed with any food safe items ever again. If you love the yarn that I dye, go and check out the ChemKnits Creations Etsy shop. The shop is filled with yarn featured in my videos, and I try to include the publication date and video title in the item description. I always absolutely include this on the tags of the yarn itself, so that way when you're knitting or crocheting or weaving with it, you can go back and watch the video, which I think is super, super fun. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you so much for watching.